She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You'll never be part of our family. My name is Janelle Carter. And from wherever you're watching this, tell me in comments, have you ever loved someone so much you ignored the knives his mother was hiding behind her smile?" The night before I left, I was still trying to belong, trying to impress her, trying to prove I was enough. I'd spent weeks handcrafting a delicate gold-foiled jewelry box for her birthday. Every petal, every carving etched with care. I placed a pearl brooch in the center, my grandmother's, the only heirloom I had. She unwrapped it with forced politeness, gave it 1 second of fake admiration, and then laughed. In front of the whole family. "I thought you said she worked in design, Leo? This looks like something a third grader made." The room stiffened. I felt my heart try to climb out of my chest. But Leo, he just rubbed his neck and smiled awkwardly. Then she added with a sharp sip of wine, "In this family we only accept real gold, sweetheart. Not sentimental crafts." I said nothing. Just sat there, holding my breath. I'd never felt smaller. Or cheaper. And when Leo didn't defend me, not once, I knew. Later that night, while he slept like a stone beside me, I quietly got up, took off the ring and set it on his dresser. I stood in front of the closet, and packed only what I came with. The next morning he texted me in panic. "Leo. Janelle? Where are you? Why is your ring here?" Then another. "Leo. My mom said you're just being emotional. She says you'll come crawling back once you calm down." But I was already gone. Phone off. Heart shattered but spine finally straight. He didn't realize I'd spent too many years begging for crumbs at tables I helped set. She thought I'd return because women like me are supposed to wait for permission to be respected. Instead, I blocked them both. And started building a life where I never had to apologize for shining too bright. The next time she saw me, she wouldn't be laughing. She'd be begging. And I wouldn't even blink. I met Leo in college. He was the kind of man who walked into a room and made everyone feel like they'd known him for years. Warm smile. Easy voice. Quiet charm. He noticed me before I noticed myself. I was the girl who blended into corners. Grew up lower middle class. Paid for textbooks in quarters. But Leo made me feel seen. Like I wasn't just surviving, I was finally someone. We dated for 3 years. He held me when I lost my father. Sat beside me while I pulled night shifts and design school nearly broke me. He said he admired how hard I worked, how I didn't ask anyone for anything. But now I wonder if that's what made me easy to control, easy to keep small. Because the moment I met his mother, I started disappearing. First it was the way she'd call me Janine at dinners, never bothering to get my name right. Then it was the backhanded compliments. "You clean up well. For a girl like you." I laughed it off at first. Tried harder. Wore blazers instead of cardigans. Spoke less. Smiled more. But the harder I tried, the more she clipped my wings. And Leo? He never said a word. Always deflected. Always made excuses. "She's just protective. She'll come around. You know how moms are." But it wasn't protection. It was control. She needed to remind me, this is her family. Not yours. I remember one Sunday brunch I brought a homemade quiche. She looked at it and said, "We don't eat rustic food." Rustic. Like my whole existence was a charity project. I should have left then. But I didn't. Because I was still hoping that if I was kind enough, good enough, soft enough, she'd finally open the door and let me in. Instead she slammed it in my face. Over and over. Until one day I stopped knocking. And the irony? The very grace she mocked, the handmade, heartfelt, too humble me, that was what would end up saving me. While her gold-crusted life began to rot from the inside. The morning after I left, my phone buzzed non-stop. Unknown numbers. Blocked calls. Leo. His sister. Even his dad. I ignored them all. But then came a voicemail I couldn't unhear. It was Leo's mother. Tight voice. Shaky breath. "I hope you're proud of yourself. Leo hasn't eaten. He's spiraling. If you loved him, you wouldn't pull this stunt." A stunt. Leaving quietly after being humiliated was a stunt? She had no idea what restraint it took not to scream in that dining room. To just smile while my heart cracked like porcelain in my chest. I deleted the voicemail. Then poured myself coffee in silence. For the first time in 3 years I could hear my own thoughts again. Still a part of me wondered, would Leo show up? Would he fight for me? But when he finally emailed me, Yes, emailed like a stranger. It was full of deflection. You overreacted. She didn't mean it that way. You're being dramatic. She's old-fashioned. You embarrassed her walking out like that. Not once did he say, I'm sorry. Not once did he say, I should have stood up for you. And just like that I felt my love for him. Snap. Quiet. Cling. Like cutting thread with sharp scissors. I started fresh. Moved in with my cousin for a few weeks. Pulled 80-hour weeks at my design firm. Turned my pain into precision. And something wild happened. My work soared. The head of the firm took notice. Gave me my own client. Then a whole campaign. Within a month I wasn't just a junior designer anymore. I was leading pitches. And the thing is, the handmade box she mocked? That design. I submitted it, the pattern, the carving style, for our holiday branding contest. And it won. They didn't know the story behind it. But I did. That box was born in my grief. My rejection. My truth. It wasn't cheap. It was real. And real doesn't need permission to shine. What they threw away. The world was about to celebrate. The campaign launched on a Friday. Our studio lit up. Phones ringing, emails flooding in, reporters asking about the girl behind the design. The box. My box. Was featured on the homepage of a national retail brand. Gold foil. Hand-etched. Exactly the way I'd made it for her. Only this time the world saw its worth. By Monday I had an inbox full of interview requests. And one email that stopped me cold. Subject line. From Leo's mom. No greeting. No name. Just a one-line message. I didn't know you were that talented. That talented. As if I'd just learned to color inside the lines. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. But I knew what was coming next and I was right. 2 days later I walked into the firm's lobby and saw her. Hair in rollers. Mascara streaked. Pearl earrings gone. Holding her phone like it was the last thing tethering her to grace. She looked up when she saw me. Like she had something important to say. Something urgent. The receptionist turned to me. Janelle? She says she's your. There's a stranger at the door, I interrupted, calm as ice. She's mistaken me for someone who needed her approval. I turned to walk away. But her voice cracked through the air. Wait. Please, he's gone. I stopped. Slow. Turned my head. What do you mean, gone? She wiped her face with a trembling hand. Leo. He moved to Seattle. Took a job transfer. He said he couldn't be around here. Not after losing you. I said nothing. He stepped forward, desperate now. I was wrong. About you. I just wanted someone who fit, who looked like us. But you wanted someone you could control, I whispered. Her mouth opened but no sound came. I looked her dead in the eye and said, You told me I'd never be part of your family. You were right. I outgrew it. And then without blinking, I walked away. She thought she'd broken me. He didn't know. She'd handed me the chisel. After that day I started sleeping like a stone. No dreams. No ghosts. No tight-chested grief wondering if I was the one who ruined something good. I hadn't ruined anything. I had escaped. And somehow the universe kept rewarding my silence. The campaign went viral. A celebrity reposted the packaging. Our sales tripled. And my design. It became the new standard for our entire winter line. They promoted me again, creative lead. With a salary that would have made Leo's mom choke on her caviar. And then one rainy Thursday I got a call from a charity gala committee. They'd seen my work. Wanted me to keynote. Talk about artistry born from pain. I almost said no. But something told me. Show up. So I did. Dressed in a sleek black dress. Hair pinned up. Confidence stitched into every inch of my spine. I stood at the podium and told a room full of strangers what it meant to create beauty in the face of dismissal. How the things women make with their hands, crafts, meals, gifts, are often mocked because they weren't bought in a store. But real gold, I said, letting my voice soften, isn't always what shines. Sometimes it's what endures. The crowd rose, clapped, and from the back row, I saw a face I hadn't expected to see again. Leo, standing alone. No mother. No smile. Just quiet eyes full of regret. We didn't speak that night. But the next morning he sent a letter. Yes, a letter. Inside was the ring I'd left behind. And a note that said, You deserved better than my silence. I thought protecting her meant protecting us. I was wrong. And I let the wrong person define your worth. You were the gold all along. I held that note for a long time. And then I folded it gently. And threw it away. Some things don't need framing. They just need finishing. And I was far past the chapter where he lived in my story. You'd think that would be the end of it. But life has a twisted sense of humor. Because just when I had fully closed that chapter, Leo's mother came back. This time not crying. Not begging. Smiling. She showed up at our firm's open gallery event. Uninvited. Wearing a knockoff version of one of my designs. I just wanted to show my support, she purred, holding a flute of champagne like nothing had ever happened. Kept my voice even. Support? You mocked this work. Laughed at my gift. She waved her hand dismissive. Oh please. That was just a silly misunderstanding. You know how families are. And there was. That word. Family. She used it like a weapon and a bandage. Like an invitation and a leash. But I didn't flinch. I'm not part of yours. Remember. She smirked, lips too red. Sweetheart, the world forgets. You could marry up, become a real name. I leaned in, voice like steel wrapped in silk. You don't get to rewrite history just because you're uncomfortable with how it ended. She blinked. And for the record, I am a real name. My name is on packaging in 200 stores. On billboards. On branding decks you probably couldn't even read. Her face flushed. Well, maybe I was harsh, but... Stop, I said, calm but final. This isn't an apology. This is an attempt to align yourself with my success. I took a breath. I don't need that. I don't need you. And right then my boss walked up. A man worth more than her penthouse and pearls combined. Janelle, he said warmly, the Vogue team is asking for you. They want a quote for the spotlight piece. I turned to him, smiled, then looked back at her. You see. I whispered. This is what gold looks like. It doesn't beg to be believed. It just shines. And I walked away, heels clicking like punctuation marks on polished marble. She stood there frozen. Watching the girl she once called not good enough rise into a woman she could never touch. And suddenly I knew. Her power over me had always been pretend. It was permanent. The Vogue feature ran 2 weeks later. Full spread. 2-page layout. My face. My name. My story told in my own words. They titled it, The Woman Who Gifted Gold and Got Laughed At, until she became the standard. It broke their site traffic record in 24 hours. I didn't care about fame. Not really. But I cared that somewhere out there, a young woman was making something with her hands, doubting if it was enough. And now she knew. It was. The same week the article dropped, I got another delivery. A large, navy blue envelope. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Leo. Inside, an invitation. Mom's retirement gala. One last chance to make peace. He'd written a short note. No pressure. But she's not well. Thought you might want to close this loop. Oh. I stared at it for a long time. Then I made a choice. Not for him. Not for her. For me. I went. Not in rage. Not in regret. But in power. The gala was dripping with gold, chandeliers, flatware, even the napkin rings. Like they were trying to prove something. I wore black silk. Minimal jewelry. Let them feel the absence of gold on me, and still feel my presence like a thunderclap. He spotted me across the room. Old now. Fragile. Eyes watery with something too late to be called love. She reached for me. Janelle, she said, voice barely above a whisper. You came. I nodded. I did. I just wanted to say. You don't need to, I said gently. Her lip trembled. I was wrong. About everything. I tried to keep Leo for myself, but I only drove him away. And you were gold before I ever saw it. I gave her the grace she never gave me. A soft smile. Nothing more. You can rest now, I said. I forgive you. Her eyes filled. She opened her mouth, but no words came. I leaned close and added, but forgiveness doesn't mean access. We close this chapter here. She nodded, quietly breaking. And I walked away from her, for the last time. That night I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just stood in front of the mirror, touched my bare ring finger. And whispered, you were the gold all along. 2 months later I was in Paris. Not for love. Not for escape. For work. My designs had landed me a solo showcase at a boutique fashion house just outside Rue Cambon. I stood backstage as the models prepared. Women of every color, shape, and age, all wearing pieces born from the same pain I once carried like a secret. Every stitch was a memory. Every hemline a refusal. Every thread. My voice steady, sharp, unapologetic. And when the show ended, the applause was thunderous. Not polite. Not patronizing. I stood at the edge of the curtain watching the crowd rise to their feet. Buyers. Editors. Industry giants. People who had never known me as Leo's fiancée. Only as Janelle Carter, creator, visionary, the woman who turned heartbreak into haute couture. As the crowd filtered out, a quiet knock tapped against my dressing room door. I opened it, slowly. Leo. He looked older. Softer. Holding a single tulip. Yo. I read the Vogue piece, he said gently. You looked powerful. I am, I replied, voice steady. He nodded, eyes flickering to the dress draped on the mannequin behind me. You always had it in you. I just didn't see it until too late. I stepped aside. Let him in. But only for a moment. Why are you here, Leo? He took a breath, but no words came out at first. Then finally, I wanted to say it in person. I'm sorry. For not standing up for you. For choosing silence when I should have chosen us. And for letting her mock the only woman I ever truly admired. The room felt heavier. Not with sadness, but with truth. I looked at him for what he was. Not the man I had loved, but the man who helped shape who I became. You know, I said, picking up the tulip, she was right about one thing. He raised an eyebrow. She told me I'd never be part of her family. And she was right. Because I was never meant to fit inside that cage of pearls and performance. I was meant to build my own legacy. I paused. And I did. He smiled sadly. You did. There was silence then. Not awkward. Just final. He handed me a small box. I know you don't wear rings anymore, but this isn't one. Just a pendant. You can throw it out if you want. I opened it. A delicate gold charm shaped like a tiny sewing needle. Simple, quiet, beautiful. I ran a finger across it. Then looked at him. I appreciate the gesture, I said. Then closed the box. Placed it on the table. And said gently, but I don't need souvenirs from a war I already won. His eyes welled. He nodded. And he left. No begging. No final kiss. Just the quiet understanding that I'd become someone who no longer needed closure from men who closed doors behind her. Later that night, after the after-party had faded and the city lights dimmed, I sat on the balcony of my Paris flat, sipping tea. No ring. No regrets. Just peace. My phone buzzed. A message from a girl I'd mentored, barely 22, who had sewn her first dress from scrap curtains and posted it with the hashtag #gold is handmade. Her message said, "You made me believe I didn't have to shrink to be loved. Thank you." I stared at it for a long time. Longer than I stared at Leo's note. Longer than I stared at that empty closet all those months ago. Because this was the full circle. I didn't just walk away. I walked into something. Power. Purpose. Peace. And from here on out I would never again beg to belong. As the truth was, I'd always been gold. Just hidden beneath the dust of their doubt.